Welcome to On Purpose, a podcast created by the team at Social Good Promotions. So Good specializes in purpose driven branding on promotional items and apparel, making your brand one to remember. Our team is driven by our mission to make the world a little better place. On Purpose is dedicated to telling the stories of extraordinary individuals and organizations that are making a difference. Take a listen and check out the remarkable contributions our guests are making.
Welcome to this edition of the On Purpose podcast, where we celebrate purpose-driven success stories. I'm joined today by Jed Seifert. He is co-founder at Stakes Manufacturing, a Cleveland-based decorator, and we are so excited to have you. Hi, Jed.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to talk with you today and share with the world all the fun conversations that you and I have had over the past couple of months. You're really championing purpose-led business in the promotional industry. And I am so hopeful that this spurs others to do the same. So a little backstory here. Jed and I actually met just a few short months ago in early June at PPAI's North American Leadership Conference. It was kind of funny. It was a very busy conference, and we passed in the hallway and up the stairs and in the elevator. We're like, yeah, we're going to chat. I think it took us 3 days to finally sit down. But when we finally did, I think we talked for an hour and a half, 2 hours nonstop.
It was worth the wait.
And probably could have gone well further, but I think one of us had a flight to catch. So it was great. But we've become fast friends, and I'm very interested in Jed and Stakes and their story, and so excited to share it with you today. So welcome, Jed.
Thank you for having me. Excited to jump in here.
So tell us a little bit about Stakes. Stakes is a wholesale decorator based in Cleveland. Can you tell us a little bit about your business and how you operate?
So wholesale is one half of it. So we are one of the largest print-on-demand enterprise businesses in the country. So as you mentioned, we're in Cleveland. We're actually just outside of Cleveland in Eastlake. We have a digital apparel printing facility where we print apparel, bags, and hats. It's a former Walmart turned into a production facility. So 110,000 square feet of production. And our business is really broken up into two parts. One is print on demand, direct to consumer e-commerce fulfillment. So you go to Beatles.com and you buy a Beatles shirt. That order automatically comes to us via an API. And then we print, ship to the end consumer, white labeled as if we're Sony Music Group and the Beatles within a few business days. And then the other side of our business is quick turn, low minimum wholesale. So same philosophy of sending us stuff and us turning it around quickly. And in the promotional product space, we're really kind of working on both those sides. So the print on demand, direct consumer e-commerce fulfillment is helping power corporate stores and allowing them to sell more product, more styles, more sizes, more colors without actually having to take any inventory. And then on the wholesale side, we're basically doing a lot of the stuff that the screen printers don't want to do. As well as doing the quick turn stuff when there's those emergencies and things need to get out immediately. But again, with the low minimums and the quick turn, it also enables distributors to and clients to carry less inventory, make smaller purchases, be able to replenish quicker, and free up their cash instead of having it sitting in cotton and ink on the shelf.
So for any distributors listening, that means single source invoicing, which is, buzzwords of all buzzwords. And for any buyers listening, that means zero to no or very little inventory, which is always really kind of a kicker in getting those especially like online stores, things like that up and running. So
Yeah.
So awesome. We are loving it, and we've loved the experience so far and our partnership so far. So we're excited to share that you're out and about. So on your website, you talk a lot about your differentiators, quality, equipment, technology. What do you feel really sets you apart from anyone else in this space?
Yeah, absolutely. I think quality is the first one, right? So part of technology ties into quality, right? So we have top of the line equipment. Our business is really two parts. We have direct to garment printers, and we also have direct to film printers. But we have the highest level equipment in the industry, but we also have our own proprietary file prep process. We also iterate on our equipment and put in our own parts to some of the equipment. So we do things a bit differently than everybody, and that's important because in the digital space, you have the difference between CMYK and RGB colors. So in the digital space, you're not really supposed to be able to Pantone match, but Pantone matching is pivotal, both in the promotional product space for corporations, but also, a huge portion of our clients are sports and entertainment. So, we work with all the sports leagues, record labels, NCAA, and Disney, Marvel. And when you're buying a shirt, you want to make sure that those colors are going to be exactly accurate and it's going to print nice and beautifully and vibrant. So we've created our file prep process, and what we do, the equipment has allowed us to hit retail quality printing on digital, which you don't really get most places, right? And then, our other differentiators are turn time. So super quick turn times. Our production time is 3 business days all year round. And then other differentiators are scale. So, we have a number of clients that are sending us thousands of units a day. So, we have a very large facility and have the ability to continue to scale in that capacity. And also on the technology side, we're fully integrated with our suppliers. So, Alpha Broder, SNS, SanMar, we have smart technology for automated ordering. We enable people to integrate with us and be able to send us direct to consumer on-demand orders as well as wholesale orders through the same connection. And then we could also kick it old school with wholesale orders. And sometimes, people just send us, good old-fashioned traditional PO attachments to emails. But we definitely, while we're a decorator and a printer, we really think of ourselves as a technology company first, and then an R&D company, right? So, we're the guys people come to when they want to do something different, right? Hey, somebody came to us and said, hey, we represent some of the food networks. So can we do on-demand aprons? So we did a week or two of R&D, and then we launched aprons on demand. So just different things like that. And because of the technology that we've created, it's also a differentiator. So for example, with direct to film technology, which is new and exciting and really buzzing in the print industry and the promotional space, we've done things where we've created the softest transfer. So it doesn't feel like a cutout piece of a raincoat stuck to your shirt. We've also sourced our own adhesives and film so that we can actually adhere the transfer to things that you typically can't. So for example, in the transfer market, you'll see people doing hats, but they're just doing 5-panel trucker hats because it's a flat surface, and they can't go over seams because it will peel. Well, we've solved that through chemistry and our own technology. So, we can go over seams of hats. We can do canvas backpacks that have, deep textures that typically you wouldn't be able to use a transfer on. So, we really, and then we also have a very white glove approach in the way that we work with our partners. We don't look at it as a client vendor relationship. We look at it as a strategic partnership and really being an instrumental part of people's supply chain and really working hand in hand with them on their projects and everything that we do. So we're definitely a people first organization. And then, the other differentiator I think is, our shared passion. I know you do a lot of stuff with Special Olympics on the side, which I love. I actually just had my brother was just in the Maryland State Games for kayaking this past weekend, and he got a gold, which was awesome. Yeah, saw him. It was great. But my brother getting a job changed his life and gave him the ability to move out of my parents' house, create financial independence, find happiness, work friends, all the things that everybody deserves and most of us take for granted. So when we started Stakes, our first initiative was we wanted to be a truly inclusive business. And oftentimes when people say inclusion, it kind of ends with, race, religion, sexual orientation, and disabilities kind of gets left out in the dark. So we wanted to change that and not just change it within the 4 walls of our building, but really impact an industry-wide change in both the print industry and the promotional space. So over 10% of our staff has developmental and intellectual disabilities. And this is not charity. We're talking about meaningful employment. We're talking about some of our best employees. So our top warehouse employee out of 40 has autism and is a graduate from our school to work transition program. Our top shipper is another gentleman with autism, and this is based off of speed and accuracy. And by the way, they both have perfect attendance as well. So not just warm and fuzzies. These are literally some of our best employees. So we're really proud of that, and we're trying to kind of open up people's minds and help break down kind of stigmas and preconceived notions of hiring people with disabilities, especially in a time now where everybody's talking about the challenges with hiring and finding good people. There's this untapped resource where people with developmental disabilities, 80% of them are unemployed, and that's not because they don't want to work. So we're really trying to open up people's minds and also help enlighten them on sort of the disability employment service providers who really will work with them at no charge for the employer. So it's something we really pride ourselves on, and it's not just something we do. It's actually a fabric of our business and our company culture, and you feel it the second you walk in the building.
It's woven into your DNA.
Absolutely.
Your website actually says, and I wrote this down because I thought this was so important. Their website says, as a differentiator, we champion an inclusive workplace. And you're right. Sometimes that inclusive word gets thrown around. I know we all talk a lot about DEIB, but absolutely that intellectual disability occasionally is overlooked. And I think it's so important to remember exactly what you're saying, that these are some of your top performers, and that work can be recreated amongst others within, especially our industry, but in the apparel and decoration world. I know that you touched very briefly on your brother's story just there. I'm going to have you go back for just a second because it is really touching. And I think it is an incredible story, and I think it's worth repeating. Your brother getting his first job allowed for his financial independence. So can you tell us a little bit about your brother's backstory and how that came to be?
Sure. Yeah. So, the hardest time in people's lives, one of the hardest times in people's lives when they have disabilities is when they transition out of the school system, right? It kind of is like, all right, well, what next, right? And trying to find a job. And there's such amazing services, which we'll touch on more here, that will help, support, disabled employees. They'll support the employer. They'll help find jobs. There wasn't as many of those services back in the day when my brother was kind of transitioning out, and he couldn't find a job. All he could find was, people willing to give him free internships, washing dishes and doing stuff like that. And, my brother is a very capable employee and a very hard worker and likes to work. An organization, Seek, which is an organization, one of these disability employment service providers in the Maryland, D.C. area that I actually sit on the board of directors now, helped find a job for him. And he got a job working as a mail clerk at the Securities and Exchange Commission as a federal employee. And he's worked there for the last 23 years. And, because of it, moved out, got his own apartment, pays his own bills. He's a tax-paying citizen that, is putting money back into the local economy with public transportation and all of that. And he's happy, and every time he gets his employee reviews, it's just star-studded. He actually Seek supports about 400 employees. And what really kind of drove me into getting more involved in this is in 2017, my brother got their Employee of the Year. And I went to, see him get this award, and they asked me to give an impromptu speech. And by the end, people were crying. And, then they asked me to join sort of the Business Advisory Council, which then led to me, joining the board of directors. And in doing that, that's where I really learned the model about the disability employment service providers who will help you find disabled employees. They'll interview them. They'll train them. They'll help onboard them, and then they'll even train your managers at no cost to the employer. And so I learned that model and really then took it to our company. And at Seek, we work with a lot of big organizations like CVS and Walgreens and National Institute of Health. But what I saw was there was a big gap in both the print industry and the promotional industry where they were just behind the times in inclusion. And it was really a perfect fit because, a lot of the stuff in warehouses and print facility is repetition. And repetition tends to be where you have the most turnover. But it's actually where people with disabilities feel the most at home and in a routine. So, and since we did it, we've seen all the benefits from improved company culture, improved retention rates. And again, I already mentioned, some of our best employees. And then last year, APSI, who's the national trade organization for disability employment service providers, actually named us National Employer of the Year. And my brother got to come with me to receive that award. So it was like all full circle. It was kind
Full
of this
circle.
beautiful kind of thing. And then and that story kind of led me and you together, right? Because I saw that you were involved in Special Olympics, and we've been working hard in the print industry, and we're pretty well known in the print industry, but we're relatively new to the promotional space. We've only been in it for a couple of years, and in the print industry, we've been really working with a lot of organizations to help them set up disability inclusion programs. So we're working with, Corning, who we buy all of our digital equipment with, publicly traded company. We helped them set up a program. We helped Rock set up a program, which is a big screen print equipment company. We're helping M&R set up a program right now. And really, that's just helping them connect them with these local disability service providers. And now we're trying to do the same thing in the promotional space. So, my brother has been an inspiration to us, my company. My business partner has been my best friend since we were 5 years old. So he's also like a brother from another mother to both me and my brother. So it's pretty cool. And my brother's even come to some of the print trade shows and done some speaking engagements with me. So he's definitely an inspiration, and we're hoping to change more lives like his job changed his life.
I cannot wait to meet him. I'm so excited to meet your brother. I'm gonna make it happen. I'll be there like cheering him on as his next race or something.
You won't disappoint.
I love it. Well, obviously champion is kind of the word here. And not only are you championing inclusivity within your own business, but within the promotional product space as a whole, you are clearly a model for inclusivity in the promo marketplace. You've explained a little bit about how or why it works. You've shared why it works. Can you tell us, are you willing to share some secrets here? How can others mimic your model?
So, it starts with finding the right local disability employment service provider. And there's organizations like APSI, APSE, there's the NET, which are organizations that sort of work with all of the local providers. You can also reach out to every state has a vocational rehabilitation office, and part of that office's duty is to help both employers and potential employees with disabilities. And once you get set up with a service provider, they'll come in, and a lot of people they get caught up on sort of all the preconceived notions or stigmas, like, oh well, I'm a for-profit business, so I can't do this, or I don't have my guys. The people that work for me are not equipped to work with people with disabilities. But take all those things and kind of throw them in the garbage, because the reality is these service providers, they'll help train the employees, they'll help train your managers, and they'll help support you through the process. And what they'll start by coming into your facility and then understanding what the open jobs are. So for example, I set up a screen printer with a local service provider, and they thought that they were just going to hire somebody to be, receiving, picking taking the boxes off the trucks and, and bringing them over to get inventory. But after they did an audit of sort of all the entry level positions, the position that actually made most sense and they had the perfect candidate for was actually data entry. So we get caught up thinking that people with disabilities have to be in sort of low skilled repetition. But the reality is there's a whole spectrum of disabilities. And because of that, there's a whole spectrum of capabilities as well. And our jobs as managers, owners, and leaders is to focus on people's abilities and cultivate their strengths, right? And mitigate their weaknesses, not get caught up on what their disabilities or weaknesses are, right? So, for example, even in our company, we have a lady who has cerebral palsy who applied for a job just because she saw that we hired people with all abilities, and she applied for a job folding T-shirts. and to be quite frank, she wasn't very quick at it because she didn't have the best dexterity. But it was early on, and we really wanted to hire folks with disabilities to get it going. We hired her with second week of talking to her. Turns out she's got a degree in cybersecurity from a major university. So, but nobody would give her a chance and put her in her box. Now she does all of our inventory audits, customer reports. She's behind a computer all the time, right? So, you don't have to actually have a position that's open. You don't even have to know exactly what you're doing. You just start the conversation. And where else are you going to find a free hiring agency, a free, manager support, free training? And again, it changes your company, right? You're going to get some of your best employees, but it makes your other employees better. It makes them more empathetic. It makes them more teamwork oriented. It takes our company, which is like 225 to 50 people around this time of year, closer to 300, during Q4, and it makes it feel much more intimate, and it improves their our longest tenured employees, and it improves retention for your other employees too, because it gives them purpose and meaning in what they're doing, right? So I think number one, start with the service provider, right? Help guide you. And then I think also just be transparent with your employees, right? I think you start with the right manager who you think is going to be open to the idea and working with it. And you might not get it right every time, but again, hiring anybody, you're not going to get it right every time, right? But
right.
The beauty is you have support here. So if it's not a good fit, you say it's not a good fit, and you look, they find somebody else for you. So, and you don't have to have it figured out. Like, they'll really walk you through it, and it doesn't even. There's also a huge pool of people with disabilities that, because of archaic policies that we're actively trying to change on Capitol Hill, that can't even work more than part-time jobs. So also part-time is a great place to start as well. So I think just start with one person that you're trying to hire, and find the right organization, and then from there you're going to see the benefits, and I'm sure you're going to do what we did and just continue to just double down and double down and double down, because it's just great. It's not charity, it's just good business.
And I appreciate so much that you keep touching on the organizations that are available, because I'm familiar with the organizations in Ohio, but not necessarily every other state, but I know that they exist. And from my personal experience, I can share the training that is provided for management and employees is so incredible. And wouldn't it be really great if we could create an environment that is much more tolerant of the differently abled? Just
yeah, and I think, so what you'll also learn is that tailoring the way you train people with disabilities is actually what you should be doing for all your employees.
For all employees, right?
Some employees learn better from visuals. Some people learn better from hearing. Some people learn better from reading. Some people learn better from doing. So, like, we always say, it's not like treating people with disabilities differently. Like, you should be doing that with all employees. And actually, your managers are going to get better at that, because now they're going, okay, I should be tailoring stuff towards people. Same thing with like accommodations. Accommodations tend to have be this dirty word, because people go, yeah. Oh my God, it's going to cost me so much money. The reality is I think like over 80% of accommodations don't cost the employer really anything. Like, an accommodation could be, hey, our training manuals were a lot of just words, right? There's a lot of reading. So we made it a little bit more visual, right? But we also make accommodations that aren't, the lady I mentioned with cerebral palsy, during COVID, there was challenges traveling. So our accommodation was, she got to work from home, but she's behind her computer all the time anyway, so it doesn't matter. But it's not just like, some accommodations could be, we have employees that are short, and some of our equipment, if you're short, it can give you back problems. So it's us just putting a platform, right? So again, it's just tailoring people to set them up for success, right? It's not necessarily like this, like, oh, well, now I'm going to have to do all these different things that are going to be so hard for me to do. And,
huge daunting task.
Right. And that's what scares people away, from hiring people. So it's something that we're really trying to actively kind of break down those stigmas and change it, and really just referring people to these organizations. So, I mentioned the NET. Their website is csavr.org. They are sort of an aggregator of the vocational rehabilitation offices and local providers. You can also just reach out to your state vocational rehabilitation office. There's also APSE, who I mentioned before, who we got the award from. They're like the national trade organization. That's apse.org. There's an organization called the ARC that does a lot of stuff for folks with disabilities, and they have chapters in every area, and they'll refer you to people, and some of their chapters even provide those services. And my name is Jed Seifert, and I'm from Stakes Manufacturing. You can reach out to me directly via LinkedIn, and I'd be more than happy to kind of, make an introduction that could help you move you along in the process.
And we will be sure to share those links as well. So thank you so much. I mean, you're doing the thing. I'm so happy that we get to have this conversation, and so excited to see others kind of join in the charge. So here's kind of the fun part. I promised you there would be some fun part and not so much, just talking. So Jed, let's say the genie comes out of the lamp. You have 3 wishes. What would you ask to make yourself or your organization an even better place?
So I think for myself, I always strive to continue to be more even keel and just kind of like take the punches, take the good with the bad, and try to avoid feeling like I'm on a roller coaster with work, which sometimes it does feel. For the organization, we love our people. I get all the credit when I'm doing these interviews, and but I'm not the one doing the hard work. It's our managers, our supervisors, our leaders. I'm just sort of the mouthpiece for it. So, I hope that they get all the warm and fuzzies and fulfillment that I get out of this, and it helps, give them more fulfillment in life. Because I think at the end of the day, nobody's going to remember how many t-shirts you sold, or how many t-shirts you printed. But if you can change people's lives and have that type of fulfillment, I wish everybody to feel that type of fulfillment of changing people's lives, because it's a rare thing, especially in printing in the promotional product space, right? We're not doctors, or EMTs saving people's lives, but like it's true that we can. And I think, what my biggest wish is that we can replicate this model and truly create an industry-wide change in both the print and the promotional space, not just to change and create all the jobs in both those industries, but then to be a catalyst and an example to all other industries about how they can come in and make an industry-wide change. And I wish that we can take that 80% unemployment rate for people with developmental and intellectual disabilities and get it more in line with the unemployment rate for everybody else. And then I guess the last one, and I guess a lot of these are disability centric, of course, because that's what we're talking about in my passion, is there's a lot of laws out there that really need to change that hinder people from. We have employees that can't take on more hours because they want to, but they can't because they're going to lose their federal benefits. There's still 35 states in which you can pay a disabled employee sub-minimum wage, which is kind of atrocious, especially when they're doing the same job as folks with disabilities. There's laws that make it so that if I'm getting federal medical benefits, but I get married to another person with disabilities, I go from 2 benefits down to 1.5. Doesn't change that we both need the services, so people aren't even getting married that want to get married. So I think, if we can kind of continue to wake up the world to this and speak for the folks that maybe need folks to speak for them, I think it'll make everybody happier, more fulfilled, and I think it'll be a beautiful thing. And even if you just change one person's life by giving them a job, I mean, to me, that's, again, how often do you get that? So I hope that we can inspire more people to get that same fulfillment. And so I guess I think that was 3.5, maybe.
Yeah, I think you got like 7 wishes. I think it's fine.
Okay.
I think it's fine. Listen, Jed, inclusion really is the revolution. We met on Capitol Hill. I have no doubt that you and I will be there again someday, pushing this ball even further up the hill. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you. It's been so inspirational. If you could leave our listeners with one piece of advice on being a purpose-driven or leading a purpose-led organization, what advice would you give?
I think just in general, it's the same thing I tell my kids: just do the right thing. I think it's work hard and do the right thing, and I think that will lead people to really do everything right. Whether it's helping people with disabilities or helping the homeless or just do good. And I think that we've talked a lot about me, but the reality is, let's not sell you short. You're out here changing things all the time. I mean, your organization is an inspiration, and how you're really driven to work with purposeful people, purposeful organizations, and that's visionary. I love that. And the fact that you spend your spare time working with, Special Olympics and being so highly involved, like, you are a champion for inclusion. You are a champion for change. And I'm just excited that we got a chance to meet each other there. And I think that we're going to do some pretty incredible things in this industry. And I think that we truly are. When it's all said and done, we are going to create an industry-wide change. And, this is just kind of the beginning of it. So I'm really appreciative of, you hearing our story, helping us be a voice. And I'm looking forward to all the fun things that we can kind of do out there. So everybody, my one ask is just reach out to a local disability employment service provider, and just start the conversation and see where it leads you.
It's great advice. It's such great advice. And I know you don't think that you're changing the world, but you can change the world one t-shirt at a time. It's very, very, very apparent by what you are doing. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for sharing your special with us. And Jed, you and your team, please keep making the world a little bit better place every single day.
Thank you very much for having me, and you keep being a rock star yourself.
Thank you all for listening to this episode of On Purpose, where we share stories of remarkable contributions by those making a difference in their communities. If you or anyone you know has a story that deserves to be shared, please contact with us at socialgoodpromotions.com. Let's share your story, extend your influence, and strengthen the impact of your brand. Thank you for joining us, and keep an eye out for new episodes.